Hey everyone, I just want to review how you would use symbols to add fractions. And in our examples we discussed to add fractions with the same denominator, we just add the numerators. The key term right here is the same denominator. Then we would just write the sum of the numerators over the common denominator. In this example right here, we have the common denominator of 12. So that just carries over and is our answer. Then we just add our numerators, which are on the top, which is 1 and 4, and we get 5. Okay? This does work for every single fraction that has a common denominator. If I have 2/3 and I'm going to add 1/3, my common denominators are 3. They're exactly the same, so the denominator stays the same. Then I just add the 2 plus the 1, and I get 3. And then, of course, we would simplify if the opportunity arises. However, this is not always the case. Sometimes we're going to have fractions that have different denominators, and the steps are a little bit different. And I have them listed below the example. In this example, we have to add 1/2 plus 3/5. We find the equivalent fractions for 1/2 and 3/5 with a common denominator. The first thing we need to do is find a common denominator which is a multiple of 2 and 5. We make two lists of 2 and 5, and we will discover that 10, in this case, is the common denominator or common multiple in each of the two lists. Since 10 is the common multiple of 2 and 5, 10 becomes the common denominator. How this looks like in action, I have a 1/2 be adding 3/5. Since I have a common denominator of 10, whatever I do to one side of the fraction, the denominator, whatever I multiplied that by to get 10, I have to multiply the top by, the numerator, by 5. And I would get 5/10. The same instance occurs when I have to do to this denominator. What did I multiply 5 by to get 10? Well, I multiplied it by 2, so I would have to multiply the numerator by 2 as well, and I would get 6/10. What I do then is I add the numerators together because I have a common denominator, and I get 11/10. In this case here, we have to either reduce or change to a mixed number, and this is an improper fraction, so I'm left with 1 and 1/10, which is my final answer. In terms of doing this on a list, a simple way is to create a chart that looks just like this. So if I'm going to find out what 1/2 plus 3/4 would be, I would list all the multiples of 2. 3, 4, 6, 8, 10. And I would list all the multiples of 4. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. In my list of multiples, I'm going to notice that 4 and 4 appear in both of those lists. Therefore, the lowest common multiple and denominator is 4. So I could rewrite this fraction, 1/2 plus 3/4. Rewrite my fraction. Now the 3/4 is not changed because it already has a common denominator of 4. And I would have to go back and just double check, what did I multiply this 2 by to get this 4? I multiply by the numerator the same number, and I get 2/4. Because my denominator is common now or the same, I just add across and I get 5/4, which I would then convert to 1 1/4, doing it that way. In this example, I'm going to find the same denominator by listing the multiples of 3 and 6. But I know that 6 is already a multiple of 3, so I'm going to keep that first fraction the same with a denominator of 6. My second fraction is going to have a denominator of 6 as well. What did I multiply 3 by to get 6? I multiplied it by 2, and I would multiply the top by 2 as well. I add the numerator together. I get 7/6, which is 1 1/6. In this instance, I have 2/3 plus 3/4. My common denominator is going to be 12 because I listed the multiples of 3 and 4. 3, 6, 9, 12, 4, 8, 12, 16. 12 appears in both my lists. I could also, of course, just multiply 3 times 4, and I get 12, but that doesn't always work. It's better to use the common multiples. Now, what did I multiply 3 by to get 12? I multiplied that by 4, so I'm going to multiply my numerator by 4. I'm going to get 8. This one I multiplied my denominator by 3 to get this 12 over here. I'm going to multiply this one by 3 to get this numerator over here, which is 9. And I'm left with 17/12, which is 1 5/12.